Hello, moon babies. It's Molly. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm really excited about today's topic, which is a much requested discussion on how we can integrate art magics, art rituals into our shadow work journeys. I believe that art is great for shadow working because it's all about integrating. Using art as a tool allows us to access non-linear ways of thinking. It allows us to access our feelings and really plumb the depth of our intuitive natures. So I'd like to think about the psyche as a fishing net or a sweater or a really complicated afghan that your great auntie crocheted, that it's made up of all of these elements, all of these threads that come together. And when we begin shadow working, what we do is choose a thread and begin to pull it. And when we do that, we can see how everything else, all the other parts of the net or the sweater or the blanket, are truly interconnected. So using art, we can see what else it tugs. So artists will study an object, the essence of what they're going to make a project about. And they will study this subject or specimen by making sketches of it from multiple angles, by creating miniatures, photographing it in the world, collecting images from other people who have approached this subject or topic in the past, or watching documentaries or interviewing people. And by doing this, they're able to deepen their understanding and ask questions like, how does this work? How does it move? And that is what we are going to do with art in our shadow work. So I know that some of you are asking, where do I start? What's my entry point? How do I get into shadow working? I'm not a shadow work expert. This is not my area of expertise. However, I've done enough to feel like I could at least offer you some entry points. One of them being looking for a pattern that pops up in your life over and over and over again. For me, one of my shadow work journeys was, why do I keep attracting jerks into my life? Why do these people keep coming to me? Why do they keep coming at me? Why do I always feel like I'm taken advantage of? So that might be an example you could use. You might also wish to make a list of your fears or things that you're worried about or afraid of. If there's an addiction in your life, it's probably not that simple. It's going to be connected to other things. So that might be an entry point for you. We also live in very interesting times, and we are seeing the collective shadow in a way that lots of us haven't been alive to see before. And you may wish to go macro to micro and find some of the things that are upsetting and bothersome to you and discover how they are playing out in a small scale in your own life and how they are being projected onto the large screen of the world. Adventurer, beware. I'm going to say this. Shadow work is not about being on the endless hamster wheel of self-helping yourself to death, okay? This is not an attempt to perfect the personality. It is not a quest for perfection so that you can become a feelingless, holier than thou, ethereal being who has a hall pass to be a douchebag and psychoanalyze everybody you know. Okay? It's not about punishing yourself. It is about being interested in what makes you tick. It's about uncovering mysteries about yourself. It's about healing. It's about becoming aware of things that you weren't aware of before. It is about becoming the most of yourself. So don't be scared to dive in. I would also like to take this moment to say that not all mental health issues or traumas may be the best candidate for you to go at entirely alone and unsupported. While I am a proponent of witching through it, I do believe that there is a stigma in the spiritual community about seeking professional help. That somehow, if throwing rose quartz at it isn't helping you, that you are a failure as a spiritual seeker. And I would like to take this opportunity right now, because I am sure someone is watching, that goddess or spirit or source or cosmic enchilada may also come to you in the guise of an excellent therapist or a great support group. So if you've been waiting for a sign and you're on the fence about getting help, I would like you to take this as a sign. All right, I'm going to leave some resources for that in the down bar as well. So now that we've got that out of the way, the ideas that I'm going to present to you today can be paired up with any existing shadow work process that you have, which might be a journaling or a tarot practice. So let's get to the art. Projects for the artistic mystic to attempt. You may wish to dedicate a book or a sketchbook or a box to the work that you are going to create. And this can be a symbolic shadow gallery for you. It can represent the you that houses what you are going to work on and provide a little bit of focus for the work you're going to do. You can play with associating colors and textures with feelings or a shadow fragment that you're addressing at the moment through playing with paint chips or fabric swatches and making collections and adding a tactile element to what you are working on. You can draw a body map that will assess where you feel like you're holding on to chronic pain that might be associated with the issue that you're working on, maybe where anxieties or fears are housed in the body. This can be really interesting information to work with. And it can also be a tool that you use to meditate with later. Nightmares are a gold mine for shadow information, especially reoccurring dreams. So you may wish to document and record these in some way through a sketchbook or collage. Using meditative or repetitive creative tasks can get us into a state of flow that allows us to ruminate. There have been many times where I'm working on what feels like a tedious task, but allows my mind to wander enough that suddenly I'm remembering something I haven't thought about in a very long time, or a connection that I've been consciously trying to make and working really hard on it flows in and comes very easily and sort of can sometimes take you by surprise. And I love to use coloring books for this, or a technique called Zentangle, which I will leave a link for below. You could create a visual timeline of your life. And you could do this through a collection of objects or photographs, possibly photographs that you recreate, as well as drawings. And it doesn't need to be linear. You may wish to do this as a wheel or in a sprawling shape, or you could look at it as if you were looking at it in an anthropological museum in a very linear timeline fashion, if that appeals to you. Decorate or create your own mask using paper mache. And this can be an interesting way to explore an issue or a character that you feel like is inside of you. And the mask itself may be the finished work, or it may also evolve into a ritual tool at some point. Collage a glass container. It could be a recycled container or one that you buy, with a Mod Podge, which is a decoupaging tool, or you can MacGyver your own Mod Podge using watered down Elmer's school glue. But what you do is you would cover this container with an issue or several issues, if you're planning on going at this long term, that you would like to bring illumination to. So you decorate the jar that you intend to drop a candle into, or an LED light at some point, and you can place this on your altar and use it as a focal point to return to stand as a symbolic lighthouse, if you will, to the issues that you are working on. You could also play on this idea by creating an image on waxed paper or tracing paper with words or images that you would like to bring illumination to. Create this image on a see-through media and tape it or paste it to a window. So again, you are trying to symbolically bring illumination through. You may wish to create a garland or a prayer flag for a similar reason. If you are feeling stuck or you're ready to let something go, this is a symbolic airing of laundry. Using the element of air to bring movement to a situation. You could collect images on Pinterest or collage them from magazines and collect up images that represent parts of your shadow to you, characters. So for instance, one of my characters that I use is the evil queen from Snow White, and I collect images of her when I'm investigating that part of the shadow terrain. Create a piece of work on what freedom would look like for you. And you could do this in any media you desire. Clay, mixed media, creating videos, paintings, whatever speaks to you. What would freedom look like for you? I guarantee that this will bring up some other questions that you could follow as well. Collage or draw a collection of your fears and worries. This can help you exercise them, get them out of your body, and in a way that you can look at them. But it will also allow you as a collection to look at, how do these things connect? How do I connect the dots? Draw or Photoshop a comic of a significant event in your life or a significant conversation to help you gain a deeper understanding of it. And possibly, if you feel that it is necessary for that healing process, create an alternate ending to that event. Portraits are extremely powerful mirrors. Create portraits of your shadow, or perhaps create portraits of yourself throughout your life, through different phases or chapters of your life, and see what that reveals to you. Experiment with temporary materials if you are working on releasing. So chalks, sand, dirt, anything ephemeral, anything that will fade over time, and see how you might be able to integrate that into your releasing process. Mosaics, I think, are wonderfully symbolic, not only of shadow work, but the psyche and the human experience in general. Use recycled bits. You can buy kits for this if you like. You can include personal or significant mementos and pushing them all together. It's about bringing together shards, seemingly unrelated pieces to create a coalesced whole. And it could be an interesting way to think about reuniting or looking at this very complicated picture of our life and a collection of all of these varied experiences. You may wish to draw a map of your shadowscape as if it were an actual physical terrain, as if it were a landscape, and think about what sort of features it would have, What lives there? What's the weather like? And this is interesting because it can be an additive process. This can be an ongoing work that grows the more you explore and go deeper. A few tips for the artistic mystic. 1, this work that you are creating, this sacred art that you are embarking on, is not for critique. It is not for public consumption. No one ever needs to see this work if that is not your desire. So don't let the inner critic stop you from making the work because you are afraid it isn't a beautiful, consumable work. That's not our purpose here. Your work does not need to revolve around a trauma if that's something you haven't experienced. It can be something as simple as a conditioning. And that, starting there, will funnel into a more specific issue for you eventually. I would like to reiterate that this is not about self-helping yourself to death or punishing yourself. It is about gaining understanding, and you are much deeper and much more complicated than you may be aware of. Give this process some time. This is a deep investigation. This is a digestive process. So don't rush it. And also don't be freaked out if other things start to come up as you're doing this work, because it will. And that means that you're doing it right. So take breaks when you need to. It's not a race, and taking a break is not the same as quitting. And finally, I would encourage you, if you are on the fence about shadow work, to try it. It is a self-loving act. And when you embark on shadow work, the world suddenly becomes a much more interesting place. And when we commit to shadow work and work on our own stuff, we are not only building ourselves, but we are contributing to the world as a whole. Because ultimately, by doing this work, we are becoming more conscious, more compassionate human beings. So, I hope that you found some of these ideas useful. I would love to know if you decide to try any of these ideas, and if any of you have thoughts about artwork and shadow work combining to become a practice. I would love to hear about them in the comments. Let's make the comments a resource area. If you're interested in ritualizing your art practice, you may be interested in my ebook, Art Witch, Practical Tactics for Art Magic, and you can find that living on Bandcamp. And I want to thank each and every one of you for watching, being here with me today, and bringing forth your questions and your discussion. And until we talk again, witch on, witch boldly, and be well, moon babies. Bye-bye.